Hello, everyone. This has been an amazing summit. You guys have had access to so many great speakers, and I'm hoping you'll count me among one of them. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. My name is Tanya Fox. I started my first business, which was a bookkeeping company, back in 1998, just before Google. And I found myself in a really interesting situation where my business was doing really well off the hop and I was seeing rapid growth. But with that rapid growth came some hardships. I had to hire lots of staff, which meant more training dollars, which meant more office equipment, which meant moving to larger office spaces. And although I was doing really well on paper, what I was coming to discover was that I was a little cash poor, but I still needed to get stuff done like advertising and all of those other things that go along with business. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. And so I kind of racked my brain and I fell into discovering collaboration. Now, to be honest with you, at the beginning, I had no idea what it was that I have. But I've spent the last 20 years tweaking, perfecting, starting fires, putting out fires, all so that I could sit there and teach other people how they could use collaboration in their business to build relationships, to grow profit, and to stop having to do everything by yourself, which anybody who is an entrepreneur, all of you sitting out there will know sometimes it feels like you're in this all by yourself. Collaboration can definitely help you with that. So, well, how do we do it? You know, one of the things that I hear the most from clients that I work with and just people that I talk to when I'm talking on stages like this is I'm not creative. I don't have the mind to think of all of these outlandish ideas and all of these unique things. I'm just not that creative of a person. So the first thing that I want to do is take you through the exercise, how I'm going to show you that you are actually quite creative. You're just not seeing it in exactly the right way. So the exercise I take a lot of my clients through, and this is also in my book, is to simply take a pencil, a simple HB pencil. And what I want you to do is I want you to write down 5 ideas that you can use this pencil for besides writing, drawing, anything that you would normally use it for. How can you use this not for its intended purposes? So some of the answers that I typically get are, I could use it as a drumstick, I could put my hair up in a bun, I could use it as a ruler. Those are just some ideas. So if you're sitting there and you can think of one idea that you could have used this pencil for, you know how to think outside of the box. So just take a look around where you are right now. I guarantee you that there is something in the room that you are sitting in right now, or the environment that you're in, that is being used not for its intended purposes. It could be something as simple as a cup that you're using to hold pens, not its intended purposes. This is thinking outside of the box. What happens often is sort of the red car theory. You know, when you buy yourself a vehicle and all of a sudden you start seeing that color everywhere on the road, you start spotting that make and model when you never saw it before. This is what they call the red car theory. And it's just that it's being brought to the foremost of your mind. So now you're starting to recognize it. They were always there. They were always driving around. You're just now more in tune. You're more receptive to seeing these because it's something that you're thinking about. Well, collaboration and out of the box thinking works exactly the same way as the red car theory. The more you start just simple tasks like looking around your environment and seeing things you're already using for their not intended purposes, it's going to start to get easier to spot them. And it's going to start to get easier to make up ideas in your mind. So while you're out, just pick an object and think, how can I use this for something other than what it's intended for? And you'll start to build that muscle. And all of a sudden, out of the box thinking isn't going to seem so out of touch that some people who don't think they're creative are. I promise you, it is something that you can do. It is a muscle that you can build. It just takes practice. And often you'll start to realize that you've actually been doing out of the box thinking a lot more than what you ever thought you were. So how does collaboration come into play? Well, that's really what it is. It's starting to think outside of the box. It's stepping outside of your current structure and being able to look at your business and how you can work with other people in your area differently than what you're doing right now. So before I get into the nitty gritty where you're actually going to need a pencil and a piece of paper to start writing stuff down, let's get some inspiration going, because I find when you can have an idea in your head, like we all did when we started business, it becomes a lot easier to formulate some plans. So let's talk about some collaborations that I've done both with my clients as well as in my own bookkeeping business that really helped me to get to the next phase. It helped me not stay bored with my business, which sometimes can happen. It helped me to ignite my passion again. I got really excited about doing these things. Now, I'm going to go through a mix of things. Some things is going to take you hardly any money, hardly any time. And then I'm going to go to the other one that can take you maybe some money, more people. It's going to be a little bit more complex. But if there's any idea that pops into your head, what I want you to do while I'm talking is write it down. It doesn't matter how silly it seems at the time. There are times, when I look through notebooks that I had from 10 years ago, that the ideas were just ludicrous at the time. There was no way I was ever going to be able to accomplish these ideas. And now I look back at them and I go, oh yeah, I know how I would do that. I would know how I would figure that out. So the only bad idea is the one that you don't write down. So the easiest way for people to get into collaborations is to do what I call a trade collaboration. And this could be trading products. This could be trading services. This is just you going, I have something to offer and I would like to get something that you offer in return. So this could be a service swap. This is the most popular one. It's super, super easy to get into. So you could say, for example, you know what? I really don't enjoy cleaning my house or my office or my podcast room or whatever it is that you're sitting right now. And so you find somebody who needs bookkeeping services who's a cleaner and say, you know what? How about we make a deal? I'm going to do your books for you. And in return for that, I would like you to clean my house once a week, twice a week, whatever you feel is fair for your environment and what you value that service as. We're going to talk a lot about value a little bit later. One of the other trade ones that I did that was a lot of fun to get my clients involved and to get my staff involved was doing a Christmas exchange. Now, this Christmas exchange is how I wanted my clients to start talking to each other. Because as a bookkeeper, I had a lot of clients, but they were kind of staggered all over the place. So I had to come up with an idea that I could start networking them together so that I could eventually start using them in different collaborations. So this one was a lot of fun, and I still do this one today in my bookkeeping company. So what we do is we simply, around the beginning of November, is ask each client to send us one gift. It can be anything they want, but it has to be something from their business. It could be a product or a service. It could be a gift card. It could be a gift certificate to get something off, but it has to be something that's tangible and doesn't need any money. So it can't be like 10% off services. It has to be something whole and complete. And I gather all of those in through November and the beginning of December. We lay them all out on the table. The staff gathers around, and then we start picking from businesses. So I will take the gift from one business and I will connect it with another business by simply giving them this gift that cost me $0 to actually obtain. Now, what this does is it allows us to introduce the person, because along with the gift, we give a write-up. Here's what the company is, here's who the owner is or client, whoever it is that I work with. Here's what they do, here's a little bit about them. And the key part is, and here's why I thought this would be a good gift for you. I do that because I want them to remember me in this whole exchange. So I thought I was going to give you this because I know I was going to give you this free massage because I know you've been really stressed out this year. You've had a lot of growth, you've had a lot of setbacks, whatever the case may be. And I just thought this would be a really nice treat for you. We all love it when we get mail that doesn't have a window on it, right? It means it's not a bill, and we don't get that very often. So by doing this simple exchange, it allows my clients to be introduced to other clients and other businesses in my area. It allows me to brighten my client's day, and it also opens the door for these two people to potentially collaborate either with me or together. One of the important things to remember when you're doing collaborations is sometimes you take a step back and two people that you connect go off and collaborate and you're not included in that. But that's a good thing. Remember, being the person who knows everybody is a really key part to being a big collaborator. If you can connect people, you're always going to be their first stop. So let's talk about something a little bit bigger. Let's talk about referral collaborations. This could be you working with another company. Now, this could get really, really big. And I've done this in my company where we've had what I call service add-on collaborations. So what this is I gathered people that I was hearing my clients say, I really wish I had somebody who could help me with social media. I really wish I had somebody that could do headshots for me or photography for me. Or I wish I had somebody who had insert whatever service it is that you don't offer and they're telling you about. When I started getting multiple clients telling me that they were looking for this service, I went out and searched for it myself. And I made a deal with that other person to say, hey, I've got a bunch of people for you. Let's work out how this can be a win-win-win. Remember, collaborations always need to have 3 wins. One for you, one for them, and one for whoever it is that is going to benefit from it. So this usually is your customers or your clients. It needs to always, always, always be win-win-win. So that's an important one to remember. Now, another simple one that doesn't take a lot of time, but is integral, is a co-author collaboration. So this is simply joining forces with somebody else who can help you to do something, usually that's in the written word. I'm seeing this. I just finished a deal where we did it in a podcast. I had somebody else who was a bookkeeper who said, I really want to do a podcast, but I'm worried I'm not going to have enough to talk about. And so I was like, you know what? I have somebody who deals in marketing who is saying the same thing. And I think you two could actually have some really interesting talks and some really interesting podcast episodes together. And so they joined forces, ironed out all of the details, and it became a wonderful co-author podcast that they're doing together, where they're both going to be promoting each other's businesses and services, and they're going to rely on each other so they don't have to come up with everything. Now, this only works for podcasts. It also works for articles. It can work for blog posts. It can even work for material that you are putting out into a magazine, or even if you want to go bigger and actually show up on national news, syndicated shows, whatever the case may be. But this is a really good way to help you spur some ideas. Now, this collaboration can also be you with other business owners in your similar industry getting together to discuss what are some of the things that your clients are saying are issues for them. And this collaboration could just be you all gaining ideas to then go and write your own stuff. So again, sometimes collaborations can look very different for the exact same thing. The great thing about them is there's no hard and fast rule on how you have to work a collaboration. Now, they can also get what I call a complex collaboration. And this is where there's usually money involved, lawyers, it's on a larger scale, or potentially there could be profit that is going to be made off of this collaboration when it becomes successful. Now, one of my favorite complex collaborations when I was first starting out in business was a staff. Now, there was about 6 of us that were sitting around together and talking about how at the time I owned a retail store. And we really wanted to get away. Some it was for doctor's appointments, others it was for kids' events, some it was for just to have a day off because we all deserve that. But when you have a brick and mortar store, it can be really hard to do that, especially when you are owner operator. And at the time, I was only about a year into the business, so I was still very hands-on at that time. And so we all got together and I thought, you know what? Why don't we all collaborate together and get one staff member that we all hire full time and we can share them. Now, we were really fortunate that we found an amazing person who tends to get bored easily in her jobs that thought that this was the most fantastic thing because she was coming between myself, that I had a craft retail store. There was another one that was a paint store. We had another one that was a clothing store. We had another one that was a service-based business. And she was able to kind of go around to all of these. Now, on the back end, we were sharing the expense of her. So we were sharing not only her wage, but what we had to submit to the government. It wasn't costing all that much. And we were able to get the time off that we so desperately needed. And it led, that one collaboration of doing that staffing led to us building a relationship. We're going to talk about the importance of that in just a moment. And it got us to build a relationship. So we started to see other collaborations that we started to do together because that initial one allowed us to know how well we work together. So oftentimes one collaboration, no matter how small it is, will lead you into more and more and bigger collaborations. So there's no such thing as a small collaboration in my mind. So the next thing, this is where we're going to get a little bit technical. This is where you're going to want your pen and piece of paper. I'm hoping that you got an idea. I am in the chat. So if you are like, I don't have any ideas for the business, message me in the chat and let me know. And I'm happy to come up with ideas. It's one of my favorite party tricks that everybody gets me to do, but I absolutely love doing it. So make sure that you just say, hey, I need some help coming with an idea, because that's one of the first steps. So let's talk about the nitty gritty, because it's great to have an idea. It's great to learn to think outside of the box. But now what? How do you do the fundamental part of actually making it happen? And this is where I find sometimes people get a little left behind. They're like, great, I've got an idea, but I don't know how to do it. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know on how to do that right here, right now. So grab your pen and piece of paper. The number one rule, please write this down. The number one rule on how to do a collaboration is creating a connection first. This is a piece that a lot of people miss because they get really excited about working with somebody and they just jump on them. And they're like, I've got this great idea. I want to work together. And the other person is like, hang on a minute. This is a little bit too much, a little bit too fast. So connection is what you want to make sure that you're always doing first and foremost. Walk into that place, meet them, message them on Instagram, interact with their posts, interact with stuff that they're doing. Ask them a question about their business. If you're in person, it's even better. Start a conversation about what are some of the things that you wish you could change? What are some of the things that you can love? All of this information that you are gathering while you're building this connection is going to help you when you're coming up with the idea of how to best pitch them. That's not going to make them feel like you're a guy in a straight coat going, want to buy a watch? Nobody wants that. So really creating that connection where you're also not a stranger when you go to pitch them is really, really important. The next thing that you need to do is formulate an idea. What do you think you guys could collaborate together? And relate it back to those things that you were noticing, either they were writing about or you had a conversation that they were saying, you know what, I wish this was different, or I really struggle with this. If you are like, oh, I know how to help you with that, you know that that's your first place to start. So sit down and think, what type of collaboration do I want to do with this person? Do I want to do a trade collaboration? Do I want to do a co-author? Do we want to create an event together? Is it something a little bit more complex? And come up with a rough sketch. Now, I'm going to put a warning here. Oftentimes, we can get really excited about this part and we plan the whole thing, especially if you're a woman. Sorry, ladies, but it's true. We tend to plan right until the bitter end. We have the whole story. We know how everything is going to go. It's really important to stay open-minded when you're doing this and be open to change. Because what I've seen time and time again, and what still happens to me to this day, I will be honest, is I get really excited about an idea and then I approach somebody and I go, I've got this great idea for us to work together. Here's what it is. And I pitch my idea to them and they go, no, I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, wow, that sucks. Like I feel like the whole thing is just crushed. So what I remind myself of is there's always room for change. And what I'm always trying for when I pitch somebody is to get 2 words out of them. And those 2 words are, what if? So this is what I teach all of my clients. When I pitch somebody and they go, no, I don't think that's going to work. And then I go, okay, totally just an idea, happy to change it all. Is like, what is it that you didn't like? Is there something that you kind of want to change? Is there something that you want to do differently? And oftentimes they'll say, well, what if we did this instead? As soon as I get the words, what if, I know there's a buy-in. And that means I'm one step closer to getting that yes for us to actually work together. So getting somebody invested is super important. And that's why I say you need to stay open-minded with your ideas because they're going to change. Now, here's where the value piece that I talked about earlier comes into. This is something that is really, really hard for people when you're doing a collaboration. And that is not valuing what it is that you have to offer and being okay if the other person overvalues you. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you want to do an exchange with somebody. You've got the what if, they're ready, but they say, you know what? I'll give you an example of what happened to me. So I really wanted to collaborate with this person. I had a complex collaboration idea in mind. And she said, you know, what if we didn't do it that big right now? What if I gave you some help doing your recordings and the photography that you want, and you gave me ideas on how I could collaborate with other people. Now, in my head, I immediately went to the numbers. And you probably will too, because everybody who's here has something to do with bookkeeping, and that is just where our mind goes. So immediately my inner calculator started going, and I started, going, okay, well, I know what her rate is to do these kind of shoots. I know how much she charges, and she just wants me to think up ideas. Like, we're kind of like here on the scales of value. So making sure that you take a moment back and go, it's her value. Because to me, coming up with ideas for collaboration is really, really, really easy. So to me, my value might be a little bit lower because it's such an easy thing for me to do. But on the other side, this was something that she really struggled with. So the value of having somebody help her do that was much higher because she didn't have to go through all of the strife. She knew it was going to take her way more time than what it was ever going to take me. So her savings of time, of money, of brain power just kept the value of that going higher and higher. So when somebody says, no, I think this would be fair, like I think you give me this and I give you that, I feel like that's fair, it's really important that you believe them. It's always going to be a struggle, but it's important that you believe them. Now, on the opposite side of that, you need to know your worth, because sometimes you'll get up against somebody who has this long list of things that they want to do for you for the small thing that you want from them. So it's also important to go, I know where my line is. This is how much this is worth to me, and I'm not willing to go below that. Is important. But I have to say, in probably 90% of the cases, people usually overvalue, because the thing that they want from you is the thing that is your superpower. And the thing that is your superpower is the thing that is the easiest for you to accomplish. We almost think that it needs to be something that is, really hard for us, or that we really struggle, or that we really fight through. And it's hard to imagine that the thing that is easiest to us is the thing that makes us amazing. So I want you to take a moment after you've been through this whole summit to sit down and go, what is my superpower? Do I know what this is? And how easy is it for me to do that? It's a fun little exercise to do. Okay, let's review just a little bit in case you weren't writing it down. First thing you need to do is build a connection and relate to them on what it is that they're going through. The next thing, you want to formulate a rough idea of how you want to collaborate with them, making sure that you're open to change when you do go and pitch them and get that what if. So building a connection, formulating your idea, getting your what if statement after you do the pitch. And then make sure that you let them decide what that worth is, as long as it doesn't go below your bottom line. Important things to remember when you're in the collaboration. So you've pitched them, they've said yes, you guys have sat down and you said, this is what we're going to do. And you built the plan. This is the type of collaboration we're going to do. This is how it's going to work out. This is what your job is. This is what my job is. You celebrate, you have fun, you're super excited. It's really, really important to keep that excitement up, to make sure that you're continuously keeping the lines of communication open. Now, no matter how much collaboration is two or more people working together, there's always going to be one person who is considered the lead collaborator. And that typically is the person who did the pitch. So for now, we're going to say you are the lead collaborator. It's your job to keep that communication open amongst whoever it is that is doing the collaboration. This does two things. This allows you to know before things hit the fan that everybody is feeling comfortable with the roles that they've been given during this collaboration, and that their tasks are actually getting done. Because if they're not, somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack, or it's all going to fall apart, like it is with anything. So making sure that you're constantly communicating. How are you doing? How are you feeling? What are you excited about? What did you get done today? It doesn't have to be big, monumental, huge conversations. But I usually tell people, when you're doing a collaboration, no matter how big or small, always make sure that you meet at least once every 2 weeks to kind of get face-to-face if you possibly can, whether that's in person or even virtually, to sit down and have a conversation and just go, how's it going for you? Are you having fun? Are you still enjoying this? Make sure that throughout the whole collaboration, you're also evaluating what's working, what's not working. This shouldn't be something that just gets done at the end. This should be something that gets done 2-3 times during the thing. Is it working? When you do that pre-evaluation as you're going through the collaboration, it helps you to pivot and shift if things aren't quite working out the way you thought they were going to be. This might be, somebody's just not pulling their weight, so you need to bring somebody on. This even oftentimes is that it kind of got a little out of hand, and this collaboration is now all of a sudden bigger than what you both thought it was. So we need to start pulling some more people in, or we need to scale back a little bit on what we're doing. So communication, evaluation. The next thing is inner communication. Now you might be like, we already said communicate before, but this is the communication you do with yourself that you don't necessarily need to show anybody else. And this is another area that a lot of my clients go, I don't know if I feel really comfortable about that, but it's really, really important. In this communication, it tends to not be the happy, fluffy, sunshiny stuff. This is you being really honest about if anybody's dropping the ball, what's working, what's not working, if you even like the idea that you pitched. This is you being brutally honest with what's going on during the collaboration. Because what happens often is we get to the end, and especially if you're doing an event-based collaboration, this happens so much with that. You get to the end, you've had the event itself was a huge success, and you are on a high. You are like, oh my God, this collaboration was so exciting. We did it, and everybody's happy, and everybody who came to the event is like, that was amazing. I learned so much. Thank you. And you've got that euphoria that always comes after doing an event. And you're super excited. And you're like, this is great. Let's do it again. You can go back and look at your notes and go, oh my God, it was a living nightmare to get to this point. Or I didn't pull my weight this whole time. I need to make sure I have enough time so that I could do this again. It could be, I don't want to work with that person again. I constantly had to micromanage them. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Or it could be something as simple as, you know what? I think we forgot how much time it actually took us to complete this event or this collaboration or whatever it is that we were doing. So having that internal communication allows you to go back and see the reality of the collaboration from your point of view. So that internal communication is super important. And then, of course, when the collaboration is done, it's important to review and assess. Now, this can be done during the high or give it a couple of days after and go, what worked? What was really great? What worked? What didn't work? This could be a place where you do share some of that internal communication that you feel comfortable with the team members. This can also be where you both just kind of go, yeah, these were the really good things. This is what I would like to change next time. This is what I would like to see different. So let's just go over those really, really quickly, and I'm going to list them right here. So the first one, communicate, evaluate, communicate internally, review and assess, and then the very last thing that you need to do is repeat or replace. So this is an important one. And again, it goes back to those inner notes. Is this collaboration something that you want to do again? I've had a lot of collaborations that I've done that were fantastic. They were successful. Everybody was happy at the end. There were some struggles, but we got over them. And all in all, the collaboration was a huge success. But we just don't want to do it again. It just doesn't light us up like it did the first time we did it. So we replace it. Sometimes with something else, sometimes with somebody else. So when I started doing collaborations, and as I've been doing it over 25 years, the one thing that I see over and over and over again for over 2 decades is that people overcomplicate collaborations. They think it has to be some grandiose thing. They think that the idea that they come up with has to be the next cure for something. It has to be something spectacular and phenomenal and bring in a ton of money, or it's unsuccessful. And the truth is that's not how anybody starts. It's not how I started. My first collaboration was trading my time and doing bookkeeping for a newspaper that was putting ads out for me. And that was the trade. We did it for over a year, and it was immensely successful for me because I was getting the advertising. I was learning a lot about the newspaper business, and they were getting staffing that they couldn't really afford full time for. So it was a win-win-win. They were seeing, more people coming in. They were getting more money coming in. All of that stuff was happening as bookkeepers can do for people. They were starting to learn how to read their numbers for the story that it's trying to tell. I always say, no matter how long I've been doing bookkeeping for, you have to be a storyteller to be a great bookkeeper, because numbers are always trying to tell a story. Can you be the person who knows how to read it and regurgitate that story into somebody else? So it was really, a great thing year round. But when I look back on it now to some of the collaborations that I do, I would have considered that really kind of small in what we were doing and what we could have done. But that's where I needed to start. And that small, somewhat insignificant collaboration actually spurred me on to what it is that I do now. So you just never know when and where it's going to lead you. So I want to leave you with one more thing. Who do you collaborate with? Well, I have a whole list of people to help you start thinking about different people that are in your area. But to be honest with you, look around to people you know. Start with a friend or an acquaintance that you already have a small connection with that's also in business that you can work with. Oftentimes, those are the easiest ones instead of trying to approach a stranger. So it doesn't have to be, this huge, monumental, big, gigantic person. It could be your best business bud that you want to try something and start small and then grow from there. So if you walk away from this for everything, from anything, I want you to remember that what you do in the whole bookkeeping industry, there are so many different ways that you can collaborate and different ways that people really need your help. And all it takes is to look at this and start thinking of different ways to use it. From there, the world is your oyster. I hope you got some great ideas today. I want to give a shout out to all of the amazing people that have been working behind the scenes for the Successful Bookkeeper Virtual Summit. There are so many hands that have been working so hard for this. So please do show them some love. Make sure you shout out, them, the speakers that you really loved on social media. You never know when just a simple shout out of something that touched your heart or made you think differently can lead to the biggest collaboration your business has ever seen. And no matter what it is that you're doing, make sure that you take time to have fun, because you'll always hear me say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? Thanks, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit.